And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
89.9 FM.
Okay. I remember.
And this is the mayor of the airways. How are you? We have former U.S. diplomat David Hunter in the studio, and we have entrepreneur Funny Finney. He's here. On the side, he's a boxing expert. Yeah, come in there. Well, knock him out. Let's like Tyson. I got to interview Tyson. We should talk about that someday. What a very interesting character, far deeper than you can imagine. By the way, if you want to listen to my Christian show, my interviews, my testimonial shows, it's on 89.9 FM WCNO, or you can go to our podcast, which is Rhett Palmer. Of course, those are delayed. And here we are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. You can say, "Hey, Alexa, open Vero's Voice." You can get the Vero's Voice app. You can download that. So there's a plethora of platforms which you can listen to us. I thank you, gentlemen, for being in here. Boy, there's a lot going on in the news. There's a lot to talk about. Anti-Semitism on the rise. What is going on in the world? Why is Israel banning Al Jazeera News? Just this week, the Israeli government announced that it was banning the well-known Qatar-based international... Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Qatar, I almost said guitar. Qatar-based international news bureau, Al Jazeera. Israel is calling it a mouthpiece for Hamas because it presents on-the-ground reporting from inside Gaza. Is this move evidence that Israel is trying to block viewers from knowing what is really happening? Well, loose lips sink ships. Even during World War II, World War I, we were told, don't tell the enemy what you're up to.
Yeah.
But it does paint a bad picture because as everybody suddenly said, they've already forgotten what happened on April 7th.
October 7th.
October 7th, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before we
this
get...
is why I have you guys right here. I got the young fellers in here, the Canaanites.
The Canaanites. Before we get onto that, that's a very good subject, and I want to get into that. But
which subject is that?
This thing about Al Jazeera being blocked. But Jim had mentioned this, and we had talked about this before, about who are the original people of the Middle East,
Let me see the cover, just show the people. This is the Canaanites, and of course the Canaanites.
Mary Ellen Buck. This is short history, but it is very factual, historical factual. And in fact...
How do we know? Have you vetted her out?
Yeah.
She might be a subversive...
A PhD from the University of Chicago in Near Eastern languages and civilizations. And she's published on ancient archaeology.
Do we know that she's not anti-Semite?
The author of the Amorite dynasty of Ugarit. So it sounds to me like...
she's an Amorite.
No, she studied the Amorites.
Oh, she did?
In Ugarit, yeah. This is part of it. So anyway, these are
King
ancient
Saul was told
civilizations.
to kill all the Amorites. I'd like to...
No, that wasn't the Amorites. That was the Amalekites.
The Amalekites.
Oh, gosh, look at this guy. Yeah. He knows the L's and the O's. What's going on here?
Did you learn this in kindergarten,
This guy is smart.
Yeah. Now, and it does show maps of the land of Canaan, as you can see where it was.
You got to watch out for guys that get the facts.
Yeah, that's right. Now, and interestingly, the conclusions that she makes and others have made is that the Palestinians and the Israelites and several other groups there are all Canaanites. Now, Jim had mentioned before, where did the Arabs come from? He said that last week, and he talked about Cain and Abel. And I checked into this over the weekend, and I want to correct that. It's actually not Cain and Abel, it's Canaan. Canaan, this guy, the name of Canaan as the people is from Canaan, who is the son
of Abe.
He is not the son of Abraham. He is the son of Ham, H-A-M, who is the son of Noah. So he is the grandson of Noah.
And the great-great-grandson of Abraham.
No, that would be later. Abraham is much later. Abraham is...
Oh, really?
Abraham's much later than Noah.
You know what?
I didn't know that.
All right, quiz for you, David.
Yeah.
What city, this is for Jeopardy, what Middle Eastern city did Abraham hail from?
Ur.
Oh, ding, ding, where's your...
Yeah,
ding, ding.
Actually, I know a lot more about...
What happened to it?
Here it is. Okay. All right. So anyway, the point is that the Canaanites are the original people of that area called Canaan, which is now the Levant and down all the way down to Gaza. Gaza was a
So
city.
you're telling me the Canaanites were there prior to everybody
Well,
else?
I'm saying
No. What he's saying is correctly is that they are all brown people from Canaan. All right, they are all. I mean, Israel, and it's a long-winded way of getting to the Palestinian people, the native indigenous Palestinian people, and Israelis and the Hebrews. They are from the same area historically. They have equal right to the land, right? So as we fast forward to a two-state solution, which I'm hoping that we're going to get out of all this mess here.
No, he wants them to go to Texas.
Well, yes, that's not going to happen.
We're going to talk about a lot of solutions or possible
But
alternatives.
The Palestinian people and the Israeli people each have equal right and standing on that land.
Yeah,
and that's just a fact.
They have legitimate.
We agree with that.
They have legit. That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Netanyahu is listening to our broadcast today live, as is the President of the United States.
Good.
Just so you know.
How you doing, BB?
Yeah, that would be good if they.
We're trying to
did
fight
listen.
the good fight here for you.
That would be good if they did listen, or at least some people, because the topics we're covering are very important, and this is literally today is the cusp of a lot of major things that are going to happen.
In a sense, I'm very flip of saying, we're just a small time. But, what you don't realize is how many somebody needs to find a list. Maybe, I know the guy behind the glass, he could do it if he wanted to. And that is things have changed the world by one vote. Right. Really, everybody leaves a footprint. Yeah. And you never know who you're going to influence. I mean, literally, as we sit here, three goofballs, somebody could tune in and say, "Hi, listen to this. This is a good idea they got here, mate."
Yeah, you're quite right. I'm
we need to be serious in that. Not that we take ourselves too seriously, but
I'm actually reading a history of James Baker, who was the former Secretary of State.
He was on my show.
James
Called
Baker
in years ago. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and the fact is, Baker is. He was an accidental politician. He didn't want to be a politician. His father, James Baker, told him never go into.
He was going to be president.
Never go into politics.
When I was younger.
Never go into politics.
I thought he was going to be president. Did you?
He got involved. He got involved in the with the Bushes and played tennis with George Herbert Walker Bush in Texas when Bush was out there as a roustabout.
New book, Barnes and Noble, top seller. It's on George Sr.
Yeah,
who I've met numerous times, and confirms all the sense of humor that I say he had. It always made me laugh. But anyway, it's a new book from somebody who worked in the White House with him, and all the things he or she, I don't know which it is, learned from him, and it looked really quite good. I won't spend $30 to $35 on a hardcover book. It's just not going to do it.
I met George Herbert Walker twice.
And what did you think?
Well, the first time he was running for president in 1979.
It wouldn't be prudent, not at this juncture.
I was actually attending a small gathering.
Voodoo economics.
Well, I know that's what sunk him. The voodoo economics was not a very and of course the fact that he miscalculated Reagan and the Reagan Revolution.
Right.
That was part of it. Baker was actually working for George Bush at that time. He was the campaign manager.
Dr. Burt Lee used to live in town here. He was the former White House physician for George Bush and left himself. He was the head of Sloan Kettering in the what do you call it? Cancer oncology department. Okay. Anyway, but he said one night that he and George were down in the kitchen of the White House. He says, "Well, I believe that I have lost the next election due to him." Remember, he had said no new taxes, and then he went ahead and upped the taxes, and he believed that. But a very interesting story. I'll try to tell quickly. They're in China. He didn't want to go, didn't have to go. He was sick, but he had to go to China. They get on the...
Who's he?
President Bush.
President
and they
Bush,
have the two Air Force Ones. People don't know there's two of them. There's one set up just for the doctor. All the equipment you would find in the best hospitals is there. Okay. So they get there. They're having this event. George, of course, is up in front, President Bush, and he slumbers down, slides off his chair onto the floor. He's unconscious. So Bert doesn't know what to do. So Bert gets on his knees, runs over here, and
under the table.
Under the table. The president's unconscious. He loved to tell this story. Under the table, and he starts undoing his belt. Yeah. All of a sudden, George wakes up and goes, "What are you doing, Bert?" And he goes, "Just checking on the big one."
Yeah. Whiskey River, take my mind.
Yeah. Well, the Chinese do have strong liquor. That's for sure. You got to watch out.
No. This was during the day. This
it was during the day.
alcohol involved.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. Anyway,
he had the flu.
Anyway,
he shouldn't have been there.
The reason I mention this is because a lot of things can happen that are unexpected. And as I said, Baker was not somebody who was likely to become in politics at all, much less become Secretary of State and Chief of Staff to the President and all that. Yeah. These things just happen. Now, I also want to mention one thing from last week we were discussing, which you wrote down. It's called The Nature of Man. That was our discussion. And I want to push back a little bit.
That was a couple weeks ago, I think.
Okay, I want to push back a little bit on that to say that we talked about, yes, people when their children are a certain way, but they can be trained by their parents or by their teachers, and they can be shaped and they can be taught laws and so forth. So because I was arguing,
you think you can overcome poor DNA?
I think I could even get you guys to start following the law occasionally. No, I'm joking. But
do you think you can overcome poor DNA?
Yes, I think that DNA is not indigenous to criminality, for example. I don't agree to that. I think that people can be taught to be.
I don't know. I know that there's natural sin. In other words, like, George, why did you eat that cookie? Oh, I didn't eat that cookie. We're going to have dinner in a half an hour. You ate that cookie. I didn't eat. No one taught little George, to lie. So there is a proclivity towards sin. And so I'm not sure. Like, I asked myself all this time. Now, I was brought up in affluence here for a short time till I was 12. Yeah. Father killed, everything changed. Mother alcoholic. Okay, then we're over here. I got out of the ghetto, though I lived in the ghetto as a struggling songwriter when I was younger.
It's remarkable.
But it's remarkable. But I'm also white, and I used to think maybe I got a hand up. But then there's the Black Avenger, who had a much more successful radio show than me. I am the Black Avenger.
But you could have been a drug addict.
I often wonder. I say, that's why I have patience for people. Some people don't have the intellect to do more than dig a ditch. Remember in school, I got to be a ditch digger. And today, there seems to be a snobbery towards tradesmen, where in fact, it's the tradesmen that are making the most dough in America today on a regular level, So, I mean, we need to, what happened? What's wrong with the butcher making a nice little living for a modest home?
Nothing.
When did everybody have to get rich?
No, and the point is, my argument here is
it's caused a lot of corruption and unhappiness.
When you're talking about the nature of man, is that man is inherently good. He wants to be good unless he's put into bad situations. Okay, that's the idea.
Some of us are, but why do others?
Maybe not all the Italians. There might be.
Have you read any true crime? See, I've had all these authors in here the year. I remember the lady from up north there. There was this guy. He got up. This guy gets up in the morning. Yeah. He sees a little girl riding roller skates, breaks her neck, throws her into the railroad track, and goes and has breakfast. He said it was the beginning of a good day.
Yeah.
So there are some really sickos out there.
Yeah, there are people without conscience. That's true. There are people without conscience.
But there's also people born with tails and without with male and female genitals and some with no genitals.
But what you were talking about before last week, which was good at the end of our program, was gentlemen, being a gentleman. You said you remember you went to 2 country clubs when you were growing up, and you hang out at the country club, and you appreciate the fact that people are being polite to each other, and that's an important part of.
For instance, I know, and I wrote this in something I'm writing for a book I'm writing the other day. I said, Trump knows better. I understand why it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me. My hypothesis, or whatever the word is, your theory is that he got hurt when he was younger. He should not behave the way he does. He's very smart, and in social situations, he certainly knows how to handle himself. Have you been down to Mar-a-Lago? The guy knows how to handle himself in public situations. Why does he act so bombastically? I don't know. But the terrible thing is people want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. He can be like an idiot with his mouth. I love you, Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for you, and I wish you healing, but, shut the mouth and stop tweeting, right?
Well, anyway, we want to. We don't want to get onto the Donald. I mean, that's too much. No, that's too much of a domestic. But I did want to bring that up about the Canaanite and the fact that we should.
So a Canaanite is not necessarily of Hebrew descended. This was pre-Hebrews. This is pre-Abe.
Pre-Abe, yes, pre-Abe, exactly. Now.
Even then, though, God got fed up with man. He says, give me one good reason why I should save them. And so he tells Abe, he's a nut. For 90 years, he's working on this big boat. What the heck are you doing?
That's Noah.
That's Noah,
What did I say?
Noah. You said
I'm sorry. I meant Noah.
All right. Anyway,
That's why we have him here.
anyway, fact checker. Let's get on to the Al Jazeera.
Just trying to keep things moving along, people.
You raised the question of Al Jazeera and Israel proposing to shut it down. Now, this was actually passed at the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament, on April 1st.
Tell them who Al Jazeera is.
Al Jazeera is a major Qatar-based, Qatar is a country, Qatari, and Al Jazeera is owned
predominantly Muslim.
And it's owned by and it speaks Arabic, and it has an Arab language news service. And they cover a lot of the world. They're very good in what
Israel has no authority over them, does it?
Well, it can expel them from its country. It can say, you can't operate in my country. And that's essentially called a news blackout. Now, you said...
And that should be morally wrong for any situation.
Well, you mentioned before, loose lips sink ships and that kind of stuff. And there are issues in cases of war where maybe you need to have some restrictions on even press freedoms. But what's going on in Israel today does not look like it's reached the level that it would be justifiable to shut down a news agency. But Israel is claiming that because they report the news inside Gaza, and the news inside Gaza is bad. The murder of 400 bodies discovered at the Al Shifa hospital graveyard, and shooting of Palestinian journalists, for example. That was just last week. The United Nations completed a report of a murdered Reuters journalist in Israel, and said that the journalist was clearly identifiable as a group of journalists wearing press and having body armor. And yet
even though I'm pro-Israel, there are young men who are going to be in the military who are not going to even listen to Bibi. I mean, they're going to be on their own. They're filled with anger, and they might kill. It doesn't justify it, and it's totally wrong. But, so, it's just like one black person doesn't make all black people bad. Right. One white person doesn't make all white people bad. One bad Israeli soldier doesn't make them all bad.
Yeah, right. Well, we these are David's reporting these. I don't hear any corroboration from this. I don't know where he got that from. Certainly, it's possible. It's also possible because it is Hamas's strategy to blend in as much as possible with the civilians, so you can't distinguish between combatants and civilians. That is their strategy.
Okay.
Always has been their strategy. They're not wearing special.
Leopard doesn't change the spots. So
hold on, don't interrupt, please.
What does that mean, though? I might seem to expound.
Well, expound is it's given the opportunity. If they think it's to their tactical or strategic advantage, Hamas people, fighters, could dress up as journalists. They could pose as aid workers. They have in the past. They could pose as civilians of any type,
that were killed recently.
and then carry a body bomb. I mean, this has been the history of the Arab terrorist groups. They use jihad, they use martyrdom as a tool, they use their own people as a tool.
It's guerrilla warfare on steroids,
all of this right here that we're going to talk about today. Hamas wants more civilians dead. The more of their people that are dead, the more it puts pressure from the international community on Israel and allows them to survive. That is their survival strategy.
Okay, this is Jim's opinion.
Yeah.
By the way.
Now, we did have video this past week, was on the news, and I believe it was even NBC, believe it or not, where they showed that the food was being delivered to the people in Gaza, and Hamas was actually shooting them as they were running towards the trucks to get the.
Hamas shoots their own.
Actually,
this is the fog of war. We pretend as though we know we have definitive answers here. Yeah. This is war. Part of the nature of man is we fight with each other. We're competitive.
The reality is that Israel is blocking the ability for independent investigations. I say independent meaning non-Israeli.
You don't do that in the middle of a war.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
You can.
You'll wait till the end of the war.
No, you don't. You can and you should, especially when there are allegations of gross violations of human rights and murdering aid seekers.
That didn't happen in World War II. Didn't happen in World War I.
Jim,
we have to say this is the truth, though.
Yeah.
How come they pick on the Jews? They're scrutinized like nobody else is when they go to war, and yet everybody else can do these deeds when they're at war, like World War II. But yet the Jews can't. They're supposed to have a nice war.
So if you haven't read my latest blog that came out yesterday, it's called "What Goes Around Comes Around." And I talk about this. When you establish game rules as politically, militarily, and you change the nature of the norms that were in place prior to that, all right? then those are the game rules that everyone gets to play by. You may get short-term tactical, political, or military or business advantage out of something, right? But then everyone sees some small measure of success you have, and they're going to do the same thing. That's also part of human nature. We're going to imitate success. So if you change the game rules and you say, hey, I'm going to put our fighters right. Imagine if America did that. We just put our fighters in with civilian populations to vanquish our enemies. Are you kidding me? They'd be decrying us as, all sorts of human rights violations everywhere. But Hamas does it because it serves a larger purpose for the international community. And it's a double standard. We see double standards everywhere in our society. When you see hypocrisy, obvious hypocrisy, like what's happening with Donald Trump in these lawfare trials. Not that I like the guy, right? But what's happening to him is the cat's out of the bag. That's going to happen. The Democrats are going to see that. The karma's going to come. It's going to be a bitch. What goes around comes around. And it applies to war.
It opens up a Pandora's box. And by the way, I want you to get on Hannity. And then I want you to tell Hannity, don't interrupt me. I like that. How come nobody ever tells him not to interrupt? He's a far worse interrupter than I am.
Well, he's worth $400 million. He's got his show.
That means, see how he does? See, the $400 million makes him somehow superior.
I'm sorry to inform you or the audience that money is power. Sorry. Okay. At least earthly power.
Okay.
The only power is God.
I'm
not saying it's better.
I'm in favor.
I'm just saying it's a fact.
I'm saying that if you can be treated as a respected person at Rhett's show, you could be treated that way at Hannity's. And if he didn't want to treat you respectfully, you should walk off his show. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a difference, Jim.
But
you don't have to crawl just because somebody's got a big wad of money in their pocket. You don't have to crawl around.
I've decided I like you, but there is a flaw in your character. Remember, I'm a little bit older than you now, and I've learned only a few things in the past few years. I'm 70 now. But there's a flaw in your character. The first thing out of your mouth, as the heart speaketh out of the mouth, as you said, but he has $400 million. Ooh. That's not good. You need to come to terms with that and find out.
Let me. I was.
You want to apologize?
No, that was an attempt at humor. All right. You have to understand that sarcasm is a very important tool in the humor toolbox.
Sarcasm is always violent,
right? No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
We would not have
you talk
comedy.
To psychologists, they're all trained.
We don't have comedy. We don't have. We need to laugh more in this world.
But maybe it wasn't really sarcasm. But sarcasm, real sarcasm, is in fact violent. Always.
Needed.
What was that, Noah?
Citation needed.
Citation? From who, Rhett or me? Rhett.
Sounds like a clown show.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, let's get back to
a clown show.
Jim was pointing out.
We should really address your stuff here. We've gotten so many tangents.
I know. We got off.
You started it, though, with the Canaanites thing.
No, that's okay.
As soon as you bring this up, that's red meat for him.
I know.
All right.
I know. Good.
I never get a compliment from Noah.
Yeah. No. That's good.
He doesn't like my singing.
He loves you.
Now,
he does not.
He loves you.
This thing with Al Jazeera, I just want to conclude on that.
Nobody loves me.
I want to conclude on that this is a non-democratic action to shut down a journalist thing.
We all agree that's wrong. You don't at the very last you should shut down the press, right?
I don't know.
But in this case, honestly, he did make a point though. Hamas, this is guerrilla warfare on steroids.
Well,
exactly.
If you have this goes back to the UNRWA claims that Israel made back about 2 months ago that UNRWA was infiltrated by Hamas. UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency for Palestine.
Hence, that's why they blew up those trucks and all these nice regular guys
the reality,
got killed, right?
they did independent investigations of that, and they concluded that those infiltration claims are bogus. Israel's claims of infiltration are bogus.
Independent investigate. So here's just to, I understand.
Let me finish. But UNRWA has a internal audit